then you get like,
not Chris Berman to the people on Hot Mic, by the way.
Right, yeah, Mark, New York Post. But then he informs, 8 million ignorant New York sports fans who call in WFAN and blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, everybody wants to trade Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, and a couple first-round picks for one player. It's a little weird.
You don't want Donovan Mitchell. I mean, we could talk NBA. I'm going to be talking NBA later today, but it is time for the MLB Strategy Show presented by Prize Picks. I'm Eric Lindquist, excited to talk through a 6-game main slate. We've got some games scattered throughout the day, but nothing with a competent enough slate to really make it work. So we're talking the 6:40 Eastern time lock time. That is the main slate. I always try to remind people right at the start, anytime it's not that 7:05 number, because people just miss lock. That's how it works. You know who never misses a lock? My guy, Terry McBride, especially on Friday. I understand that you had an okay little night. Why don't you tell the people, you modest human being, you?
I did. I watched the movie Ambulance. I watched the movie Uncharted. Enjoyed some herbal refreshments, sat around, and nothing else eventful happened after having hosted the MLB Live Before Lock show. What are you referring to? I'm not sure.
I can't remember. I don't know. We'll do the Awesemo Hall of Fame later. Come on now, 30K right out of the gate for my guy on FanDuel on Friday. That's good times. Congratulations.
Thank you,
I guess just stack the Yankees every day.
It seems to be paying off. I've been banging that drum a little bit this season, and I apologize. I'm at the point where I'm apologizing for bringing them up in my articles and on shows, and we'll do it again in a little bit. But they're just loaded, and it works. I mean, it makes sense. I won a little bit of money with them again last night, and I plan on doing the same today. They're in my placeholder today. Got a little beautiful placeholder. I love building a lineup at first because it's always like my favorite lineup of the day, and then it just completely falls apart by the time the tournament comes around, and guys go over, and you've got a 25-point lineup that, like, at this point in the day, if that lineup doesn't score 250, I'll be disappointed on FanDuel. But that's how this thing goes.
It was also one of those sweats. I think you were pretty much up there from the get-go. As soon as that game got over, you basically had a 2.5-hour sweat, and you held the whole way. What's that?
It was that last game of the night was that 14 hit or 20 hit or whatever, 10
San
run
Francisco.
Nationals. Yeah, it was just, it was never ending. 8th inning, they put guys on base on both sides of the inning. 9th inning, it's just too much.
Yeah, but when you have those low-owned stacks coming at you, it's really hard to know, because if it's like a popular stack, you're like, oh, okay, well, it's there. But when it's a low-owned one, you're going through, you're scrolling down. I was looking through everything in my entries. I'm like, is Terry going to be fine? Is Terry going to be fine? And
I was doing the same thing.
So Gundacker was like in 25th, and he had a live bat.
He was a home run out. Yeah.
He was a home run out. Yeah, so I saw that he was just like behind there, but we had Steve Buzzard there, 1-3. Always a fantastic thing. Congratulations to my guy. It's almost like we should have you on a baseball show today and talk through some baseball. That seems like a good idea. Smash the like button for my guy, Terry, over there. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And then, of course, Mike Lawrence behind the scenes. Awesemo. He'll be in the chat hanging out, doing a great job. Obviously pulled up everything there on cue. That was fast. You had the screenshot ready to go. We'll pull it up here a little bit later because we're going to have time for a Hall of Fame today. 57 minutes left in this MLB show. But I guess we should just dive right on into baseball. Anything stand out to you this weekend?
Overall from the weekend, I mean, just some more really good pitching performances. Baseball's, very pitching focused. A lot of power's been sapped out of the game right now. So we'll see how that continues through through the course of the regular season. But we've got some ridiculous pitching numbers in right now. And some of those guys are going today with some microscopic ERAs so far. A guy like Pablo Lopez has allowed 1 run all season long. So there's just some really good pitching going on. But baseball's been fun this year. I've been enjoying it. And we saw Julio Rodriguez get his first home run over the weekend. We saw Kershaw hit that strikeout record over the weekend. Just a lot of cool stuff going on.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff. And, I don't know. Part of me is very about the old school, the preservation of the game. But then part of me is like, home runs are fun. Scoring is fun. I enjoy scoring. It's why people bet overs all the time. And it's why there's certain things that are just inherently, naturally, like you want to watch scoring and incredible things in a performance aspect. So, hold up.
You went a little hollow on me there.
There we go.
I'm with you on that. I mean, it's weird. I'm a baseball traditionalist in a lot of ways. I like a 1-0 game that's 0-0 into the 7th inning. Baseball's a game of anticipation, a game of strategy. So I do like all of that. But at the same time, you do like to see some offense from time to time. You do like to see guys able to hit the ball out of the ballpark. So deadening the ball to absurd degrees may not be the best approach, but we'll see. There's a happy medium. They'll find it, and maybe you go back to the juicier balls, but you raise the mound a little bit. There's ways around it. So they'll figure something out. Just don't bring in robotic umpires. Get rid of the automatic runner on second base, and we'll be happy.
Yep. I'm with you. On that note, let's talk pitching and no offense. Arizona Diamondbacks at Miami Marlins, 6.5 total. Hey, how you doing? What's going on, Pablo Lopez? Good to see you on the mound here. 10K on DraftKings.com. Over on FanDuel, he's 10.5. He is the most expensive pitcher across the board. Let's start with him going up against this abysmal Arizona offense. You have no doubt about it. He's going to be popular. No doubt about it. One of the guys that you want to be getting to on this slate. How do you feel about Pablo Lopez in this spot?
Yeah, you got to like the spot for Pablo, even at the inflated price tag. I think he's a pitcher that we all agree is a talented guy. We've seen it from him in spots over the course of time. It's just a matter of pitching through a full season. Last year, 20 starts, 102 2/3, 27.5% strikeout rate, a 3.32 xFIP. I just mentioned before, so far this year, he's given up 1 run in his 4 starts. He's been spectacular this season so far, pitching to a 2.59 xFIP, a 2.22 ERA, and a 0.39 earned run average. They were on the MLB Central this morning. They were talking about it that's a record it was something over the first 4 starts of a season, a guy who's thrown more than 20 innings in 4 starts to have only given up, or to have that ERA was some kind of record that nobody's done in, X amount of years. So out to just a spectacular start, and not going to be threatened by this Arizona team. I mean, it's a team that they've been so far in this year's numbers a little bit frisky in terms of run creation against righties, but it's a 164 ISO, in terms of their power. It's a 164 ISO against righties. That's 7th overall in baseball, but you're talking about a mark that's just going up against a lot of flat power numbers this year, rather than that being a good mark on its own. Yeah, it stands out in comparison to some of the other teams, but on its own, a 164 ISO isn't anything special. They're 29th in baseball this year with a 26.2% strikeout rate against righties. They've created runs 13% worse than average. So he should carve this team up pretty handily here. I don't really see any major threat to Pablo Lopez. I like him. I like him at the price. He's our number 2 on both sites in terms of probability of being a top starter overall. No reason not to fire away with Pablo Lopez. If you're at or around the field, you're perfectly fine. You could even get over the FanDuel number, 16.8% on FanDuel. If you wanted to push that up into the 20s, I wouldn't really have an issue with it.
And then on the other side of this one, no slouch himself, one of my favorite pitchers to get to just because he's been undervalued. I played him against the Dodgers at like 1%, played him against the Mets at like 1%. It's Zach Gallen. He's been very serviceable, and at 7,600, you get a Miami offense that has some improvements in terms of power score. Jorge Soler, Sanchez, Garcia. In that outfield, you got Brian Anderson batting all right here as well, Joey Wendell, these guys. But Chaz Chisholm could be out here in this spot as well. That would be good. I mean, he's got stomach cramps and distress. Best of luck to you, pal. I think you'll be okay. Might be back in the lineup here today. I would pretty much like to not see him there if I'm going to be rostering some Gallen. But overall, this guy has just been flat out good to start off the season. 176 expected batting average, 299 expected slugging, and a 25% K percentage. I think he's shown some market improvement, obviously. Do you think he can keep it going against Miami today?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Gallen's another kid who I think is a talented guy, another guy who's dealt with injuries in and out of the rotation over the past few years. But last year, 121 1/3, 26.6% strikeout rate. He still walks too many, 9.4% last season. So far this year, his walk rate is sitting 7.1% against a 25% strikeout rate. So strikeouts, minor dip, walks a little bit of improvement, which is a good thing. You like to see that. You mentioned he's out to a good start, 0.60 ERA, very strong 1.98 xERA. A 3.88 xFIP is a little bit revealing, but I think he's strong enough to get through this team, certainly. You mentioned the Marlins. They've been a little bit frisky this year as well. The run creation has been good. They're sitting at a 120 WRC plus collectively against righties so far this season. That's 5th best in baseball. The power 154 ISO, again, comparative to other teams, it ranks 10th in baseball against righties, but that's not a very good ISO. So it's just a lot of sapped power. But the run creation is interesting. 23.5% strikeout rate as a unit for the active roster against righties so far this year. So I think there's enough on the bone there for Gallen. What I don't love is that he's getting a little bit of ownership. Last I checked, he's sitting at a 10.4% probability of being our top pitcher on FanDuel, 17.9% ownership share. That's pushing him into some pretty negative leverage territory for a 9,100 price. That at that price, I'd probably rather shop around to some other guys who are less popular, give me a positive leverage pitcher. And it's similar on DraftKings. He's our number 3 over there, 23.7% probability of being a top 2, but 38% ownership, one of the most popular pitchers. I like other guys as an SP2 option in the similar or even lower price range. So I think I can undercut the field on Gallen, but I do like him. I do think he has every opportunity to put up a strong start here against Miami.
We can kind of go on these tangents because, you know, it's a 6-game slate. We should be able to get through this one pretty quickly. Don't you find it fascinating who is leading the league in terms of righty splits, in terms of WRC plus this season?
In just looking at a number like like the Marlins being up there that high, I would say so.
Cleveland is number 1 though, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, there you go.
131 WRC plus. What planet am I on? This team against righties, I'm pretty sure is going to be competent. You get Kwan, you get Jose Ramirez, who goes both sides of the plate. Naylor, you get, Miller's been good from both sides of it, even though he's a righty. I mean, what?
It's surprising. I mean, they've been good, and they've been good at everything, right? 194 collective ISO. They're really good at avoiding the strikeouts pretty much up and down that lineup, 19.6%. So yeah, that's a surprising number for run creation. I expect it's going to come down. I don't think that lineup's going to maintain at that level, but that's definitely surprising so far for Cleveland, and good for them. They're out to a nice start.
Now look at who's in dead last in terms of run creation against righties.
You old Cincinnati Reds and their 3 wins.
No, the White Sox, 69 WRC plus against righties. I don't even know what to make of my division this year. That was just like a selfish talking point, but is that incredible or what?
I have the White Sox at a 71 and the Reds at a 70. So that was from this morning's update with the active roster button click. So maybe there's a slight discrepancy. Gotcha. It depends on what you're looking at. But neither one of those is good.
I mean, unbelievable. Cincinnati and the White Sox. I mean, for them to be 1-2 in any capacity next to each other, something is not like the other one. White Sox.
You got to expect those White Sox are going to come roaring back in that one, though. If I had a wager to make, I would think that one's going to improve pretty dramatically. And their numbers against lefties are like the complete opposite. 139 WRC plus against lefties, 3rd best in baseball for Chicago.
Yeah, creating runs, guys, confirmed important. That's something you're supposed to do. Yeah, confirmed important. I don't really think there's a whole lot that I'm going to mine out of this team. I mean, I'm going to just play Avisal Garcia as a one-off against everybody because I think he's that quality of a hitter. He has not had a great start to the season by any means, that's for sure. But that's also what's going to happen when you go from Milwaukee to Miami Marlins Park, where tougher to hit, 194 batting average, 1 homer on the season. That is going to positively regress, I think, here. But do you have anything in terms of bats from this game?
I don't hate the idea of maybe grabbing a few shares of Marlins stacks going up against Gallen at very low ownership for the Marlins. They're positively leveraged on our top stacks board. They land kind of in the middle. So I'd be looking, it would also swing around whether or not Jazz is in that lineup. So if Jazz is there, I'd be looking at like a Jazz, Aguilar, Jorge Soler, Jesus Sanchez, Avisal Garcia kind of a stack. Maybe, for differentiation, you can work in like a Joey Wendell. He's had a nice hot start, swiping some bases, hitting a few home runs. I don't love it, but at the ownership numbers, I think on DK, it's somewhat appropriate to go after the 40%-ish SP2 ownership on Gallen. So you can do that. On FanDuel, they're negatively leveraged. I don't really need to do it. A lot of that weight is coming around Jazz, though. He's up at 17.5% because he only costs $3,000 on the FanDuel slate somehow. Second and shortstop eligible. Everybody else drops into single digits. So maybe if you don't have Jazz on the FanDuel slate, they probably come down a little bit. You get away with a 4-man around like an Aguilar, Soler, Sanchez, Garcia. But I don't love doing that. It's more of a DK stack. Arizona side got a little bit of offense out of them yesterday. They were popping in the home run model, but I don't really love the spot today. Nothing that I'm really seeing. Maybe some one-off like around Dalton Varsho, Jordan Luplow, somebody like that, but nothing to go out of the way for on the Arizona side.
Anything else from this game? Basically, I like Gallen a little bit more than you, but I understand that he's getting quite a bit of popularity, so that's going to be something to take a look at. It's just hard for me to want to click on Chris Paddock more. I think that's what it is.
So yeah, my enthusiasm for Chris Paddock is definitely outpacing yours, and that's where I'm kind of looking. But yeah, I do.
Think, I'm here for it. Again, I'm the pessimist when it comes to the Minnesota Twins. I always have to be the guy who kind of looks internally and is like, oh yeah, I remember pain. It happened last year, because it happens every year. However,
they reminded him that he should throw a curveball, and they're teaching him how to throw a curveball. So I'm a little optimistic about Mr. Paddock here. But yeah,
fun fact: I've been to two World Series clinching games for the Minnesota Twins. 87, I was 1 month old. 91, I was 4 years old. My parents brought me to both clinching games.
That's pretty awesome.
I'm the only one of my siblings who went too, so it's ironic that I end up being the sports guy. So.
Do you get to lord that over them the rest of your life?
They don't care. They don't care.
What are you gonna do? I was at the Yankees 99 clincher against the Braves, the sweep. It was a great Clemens performance. One of the most boring baseball games I've ever been to. It was a foregone conclusion they were going to win in like the 6th inning. It was the 3rd straight. So it was just like, this is great. This is, it's a fun celebration and everything, but it wasn't like that dramatic kind of a World Series win or anything. It wasn't like way over the top, turning cars over, but that was more the 96 win.
Yeah, that only happens in Philadelphia. Oh, hi, Mike. Let's keep it moving. We got Minnesota Twins, 4.1 implied runs going up against the Baltimore Orioles, 3.4. Welcome to a pitcher's park that is Camden Yards. That's a yay in the column of Chris Paddock. You know what's also a yay in the column of Chris Paddock? He's been really, really outpacing expectations to start up this season. 324 expected slugging, 21.7% K percentage, which is run of the mill. But for a guy that, is just focused on being a good real life pitcher, I don't think he's ever going to have the 26.9% strikeout stuff that we saw from him his first year out of the bigs. We saw positive or negative regression coming for that K percentage, but he's still just been a serviceable, good pitcher. And if he continues to be good with this staff, if we get action out of Dylan Bundy, Joe Ryan, God forbid, Bailey Ober, Chris Paddock could just fit in nicely. This could be a decent enough rotation going forward. Why are you so optimistic about Chris Paddock today, Terry?
So like I mentioned, they've reminded him about the idea of a curveball, and he's throwing it 21% of the time. The knock on Paddock was always that he's got two very, very good pitches. He's got a plus fastball and a plus changeup, and then he had a very mediocre curveball coming up, and he just kind of stopped throwing it. So last year he was at 12% and it was ineffective. In 2020, in that short year, he was at 7% and it was ineffective. This year he's throwing it again, 21%. He's getting swing and miss on it. It's been an effective pitch for him. If he can continue that changes the entire nature of what kind of a pitcher he is. I think we could even expect some additional strikeouts if he's getting swing and miss on the curveball. I don't know that we're going back to 27% like we saw from him as a rookie in 2019. I think a lot of that was just there was no book on how that changeup worked, and he was getting away with it. But maybe we get back to that 23.7% that we had in 2020, somewhere around there. He's always been very, very good with the walk rate, currently at a 1.7% for this year. Last year 4.8, the year before 4.9. So doesn't give guys free passes, doesn't make it easy on opposing hitters. If he can focus on that stuff at 7,800 on FanDuel, I really like him. Under 10% owned, 7,200, only 20% owned on DK. I think he's a good alternative SP2 to jump away from the Zach Gallen ownership at a lower price. You can buy an extra bet, you get away from a little bit of that ownership, and you're going up against an Orioles team that is relatively non-threatening against right-handed pitching. So I like the matchup for him. If you're in a season-long league and you're looking for a good streamer this week, I actually think Paddock has two excellent opportunities going up against Baltimore and then going up against the Oakland Athletics at the end of the week. Baltimore this year, 109 WRC plus, 24% strikeout rate, 13% worse than average, creating runs by WRC plus. Sign me up for some Chris Paddock at low ownership today. He's the guy I put my placeholder around.
You're talking dirty to me. All right. Well, again, I
thought that placeholder was going to go completely bust like they always do. So this is why.
Let's go. 5.9 inches beyond the league average on that curveball right now in vertical movement. Yeah, that's something that he could get moving in 2021, but obviously must have not been locating it whatsoever because he just, completely only threw it 230 times last season. Going through some of these numbers, that curveball, 71 in 2020, So he's ramped it up a little bit here. And now, yeah, that curveball, throwing it in equal amount as the changeup so far this season, 29 or 49 pitches
really
each.
saying
so
something for him.
That is
apparently they've got him working with Sonny Gray, and the pitching coaches really zeroed in.
Just listen to Sonny Gray, please. Have you heard him on podcasts before? He is such a good interview.
I haven't. No, I'll have to check him out.
Yeah, if you Google it, I think he was on like a CC Sabathia one. I think that's where I heard him the first time, and he's been like on a couple of different podcasts. But he's like a country boy, and he's like super sharp when it comes to like how he revamped his pitching mix. And it was, for me, it's always interesting because, again, baseball is the only sport that I really didn't play growing up. I think I played it till like 5th grade, but it was always the sport that you listen in the radio as you're driving around. And then, when I moved here to LA, Dodger Stadium, there's nobody there. You could just get outfield tickets for like $5, and that was your weekend entertainment. You'd go out with the boys, and you'd try to hit on very cute Mexican girls, and it was great times. It was like the best times I can remember moving out here in the early stages of LA. And that's how I fell in love with baseball, was, chasing girls around Dodger Stadium. But then all of a sudden, Clayton Kershaw existed. And I'm like, I was more interested in watching him pitch, just because I was like, there's nobody better on the planet at it. And you have to respect any time, even when they weren't good, 11 years ago, 10 years ago, when I first moved out here, it just made it super fun. But Sonny Gray, phenomenal interview. I know I went on a tangent there, but it was fun.
I gotta check that out. I just love baseball people talking about the mechanics and like
because it's stuff I don't understand until I hear it from them, because it's like, it would be like somebody coming to me about golf stuff, but like obviously Sonny Gray's at a much higher level of this, but it's like, yeah, I know a lot about golf and I'm happy to share the information. Sonny Gray is just one of the most knowledgeable guys. Him and Scherzer talking about pitching is like incredible.
I love getting into any of those. I'm fortunate that we have on the Yes broadcast most days David Cohn, who's just phenomenal at diving into all of that. I love Coney because he's a numbers guy now. He's taken on the analytics part, but he also talks about a lot of like the traditional baseball stuff. He'll talk about like how important it is with your land foot as a pitcher, where your foot lands and how to keep that consistent, and like just nitty gritty stuff like that. And then he's also great because he's got all the going out partying till 4:00 in the morning when he was a player stories too. So Coney's one of the best in baseball in my book. I'll love incredible guys like that.
Yeah, you definitely want to check it out. I think it was CC Sabathia that interviewed him, from the one that I can remember. So if you YouTube that, it was a really fascinating listen. I turned it into West Side Story, except for Mexican as opposed to Puerto Rican, mainly because I know my love over there. Terry McBride confirmed Puerto Rico. Yes.
Cuba, but that's close enough.
Cuba, damn it. See, I was trying to be cool and I forgot. Let's keep it moving. Tyler Wells, 17.5% K percentage.
My mom loves that movie. She's the Cuban one, and she loves that movie. I think she thinks of it as like the story of when she and my dad met back in the Bronx. My dad was the Irish hooligan kid beating up everybody else. My mom was the Cuban princess, yada, 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 West Side Story.
So good. That's cute. It's a great musical. The original is just phenomenal. I haven't seen the new one. I started watching it and fell asleep.
I trust Spielberg to do anything, so I don't think it's going to be bad by any means, but I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet. Oh, speaking of movie stuff, I have to clean something up real quick. Eitan, our pal, the other day on a show asked me the best fictional band from a movie, and I didn't come up with Wild Stallions from Bill and Ted, so that is your answer, Eitan.
The answer, whatever, what's that thing you do? What's that thing you do? I said band?
That. The Wonders, the Oneaters.
That's number one for you.
Off the top of my head.
It's that, or it's. I mean, one of the greatest movies of all time. Why am I even just blanking at? Almost Famous. Almost Famous. Whatever the band is from Almost Famous, it has to be number one for me.
Stillwater. Yeah, that's a really
Stillwater.
Good
Stillwater.
I didn't come up with that either. That's really good too.
That's number one for me, mainly because it's just I boldly go where many men have gone before. Let's keep it rolling. We got the Twins on the other side because Tyler Wells, we don't really have anything that we need to talk about with him, do we?
Just the fact that 12.7% of the field seems to be rostering him on DK at 5,100.
Yeah. It's a 6-game slate. I get it.
Yeah, I get it, but I don't think it's going to work out for that 12% of the people. We're not talking about a very impressive pitcher here. We're putting him at, he's got a 12.4% probability of being a top 2 for the money. So, I mean, yes, based on that, based on our value rating, it does make sense. I just really, really worry about that. We're talking about a guy 4.42 xFIP, 5.54 ERA with a 5.06 expected ERA over his first 4 appearances, 13 innings this year. A 4.11 ERA, 3.60 expected ERA, 4.11 expected FIP last season, but low strikeout guy. I just don't love it. So I'm not a fan here. He's been a reasonably good strikeout performer in the minor leagues. Last year in a small sample did jump up to 29% over 57 innings. Most of that, I believe, was out of the pen. Yeah, all of that was out of the
all
pen.
of it.
34 games last year. So I just don't believe yet as a starter here. I think people are going to be getting themselves in trouble with that one. So I wouldn't be going there. I just think there are better SP2 options on the board.
Yeah, this isn't like yesterday when I recommended. I mean, you get a 4K guy who's stretched out, you can always fire that up. And that I'm never going to say anything really to the contrary of that. That was kind of the situation that we ran into with Josh Winder of the Twins yesterday. That was fantastic. That could not have worked out a whole lot better. But I mean, I didn't have any of the correct bats, even though I had all the money to spend on them. So once again, it kind of goes both ways, hand in hand, where you still the bats, you got to get them right, and it's harder to predict. But 5,100, I'm probably not going to be going to any Tyler Wells, even though I expect him to probably garner even more ownership than that. He seems serviceable compared to the range. He's facing a Minnesota Twins offense that's going to strike out a lot at the same time that they can be potent. He's at least stretched out beyond 72 pitches. So we'll see what happens here. Plus, it's a pitcher's park. Welcome to the new pitcher's park. And that's the way we have to look at this, right?
Yeah, for right now. We'll see how it plays when the weather warms up a little bit. I'm still curious about that. But yeah, moving that wall back and more importantly, raising the height of that wall has a very dramatic effect on everything that's going on there. So yeah, we'll see. But right now, pitcher's park for sure.
All right. Well, let's talk to the Twins offense, because that's really all I want to talk about is my boy Byron Buxton and his 763 expected slugging. How you doing, father? 28.2 sprint speed. I mean, I just love this man. You get the sprint, you get the sprint speed, you get the freaking hit utility. He's absurd. He's the best player in baseball. You're welcome. Yes, I said it. He is. Byron Buxton, stay healthy. One-time dealer. How do you feel about this stack going up against Tyler Wells?
I don't mind it. I love Buxton off the top. Luis Arias, I'm not the biggest fan in the world of him. I think he's more hit tool focused, not giving you a ton of power, but he can get on base for you ahead of Carlos Correa, Jorge Polanco, Max Kepler. I like that upper part of that stack. The back end of the lineup leaves a little bit to be desired around Urshela, Larnach, Jeffers, Gordon. A little bit of power in Larnach and Jeffers when you need it, but it's not the most impressive back end. But that top part of the team here, I could definitely get into some stacks. They're just popular. 35% ownership for Buxton on FanDuel, 22.7% on DK, and you're in the mid to high teens on everybody else at the top of the lineup there. So with a lot of weight on it, I would probably come in a little bit under the field, despite the fact that they're going up against the pincushion of a pitcher. They're negatively leveraged on FanDuel, 11.5% probability of being the top stack. -6 leverage score is our most negatively leveraged team on the FanDuel slate. On DK, similar story, second most negatively leveraged. Third, excuse me, the Orioles are way negatively leveraged there. So it's not the greatest situation in terms of where the public is on it, but the prices are fine. They're easy to snap together. So I think it's a good opportunity for them. I would be a little bit below the field, certainly below the field on the 30 some odd percent ownership on Buxton on FanDuel, but I do really like the spot for him. And I agree. I mean, if he hadn't suffered all these injuries through his career, we'd be talking about him like we talk about Mike Trout right now. He has all the talent in the world.
Yeah, I mean, he was the guy. We brought him up. We had to put him in the 9-hole because he had the yips at the plate when he batted cleanup opening day. Then he ended up being the best hitter in baseball for the first month of the season out of the 9-hole, like he's Jackie Bradley circa 2017 or whatever that was. And then out of the middle of nowhere, it just disappeared again. He gets hurt, and it's just been back and forth with that. Needs to play over 60 games in the season to really beat the last couple of years. I mean, it's just crazy how few of games he's played. Get me some Byron Buxton in life. Yeah, he's going to be around 25% as a one-off. He should be. He's that good. He does everything. So you're going to find paths to get to him.
Young, only 28 at the beginning of this year. So I mean, you got time with him. But yeah, you'd like to see more than 140 was the career high in 2017, and since then he hasn't cracked 90 games.
90 is the number. Okay,
hasn't 60, cracked 300 plate appearances.
Yeah. 57.1% hard hit percentage this year, 657 ex Wobicon. I mean, come on. Let's just freaking go, my young man.
28.6% barrel rate so far this season. Up
What?
from 17.9 last year, 13.5, both excellent numbers the 2 years before. I mean, so good. So good.
From the Baltimore side, who's your favorite bat if you had to pick one off against Paddock?
By my home run model, which I'll go to here, Anthony Santander up top of the lineup.
That's my guy too. A lot of people are. Cedric Mullins is having some issues this year.
Yeah, you know what? Cedric Mullins at the beginning of last year, I wasn't on board, and then he went 30-30 and was fantastic all year long.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started talking about him in glowing terms this year, not so much. So maybe it's my fault. I don't know. But
yeah, you did it.
I did. If you're going to Orioles, I would definitely include Mullins, particularly because he's, 4,000 on DK for all that talent is definitely a fair price. 3,200 on FanDuel. He's not that highly owned. You get a little bit of ownership around Mancini and Mountcastle in the middle of this lineup, but if you're putting together Mullins and Santander off the top, and then maybe like an Austin Hayes from the 6th spot at 7.7% ownership, you're kind of offsetting any ownership concerns around Mancini and Mountcastle if you stack these guys. And those concerns don't really exist on FanDuel. Everybody's at a pretty fair ownership over there. It's just that Mancini and Mountcastle are 2,700, 2,900 on the DK slate. So they're drawing a little bit of popularity for that. And that's what's pushing the ownership as a value stack for the Orioles. Negatively leveraged on DK, though. I don't know how much I love it, particularly if I'm going to Paddock as my SP2 there.
All right. Anything else from this game for you, my friend?
No, I think we covered it pretty well. I do like the idea of Max Kepler hitting a home run
always
in the middle of that lineup.
Yeah. Gentlemen, let's go. Let's also go $29.95 for the weekly pass here at Awesemo. If you want player projections, ownership projections, the everything, top stacks tool, top pitchers tool, all of the MLB stuff, plus NBA, we're still going strong. Boom bust tool for the playoffs. We're going to have showdown content constantly for everything. The showdown tool, no matter what sport it is just genius here at Awesemo. So take advantage of all of those things, plus like NASCAR top drivers tool, top golfers tool in PGA. No matter what sport you might want to partake in, everything will be covered for every DFS sport for $29.95. Check that out. And if you just want baseball, it's $4.95 for that weekly pass. But with how many sports are going right now, yes, USFL still exists, I think it does. You want to check out all of this great tools and content behind the scenes here at Awesemo. So stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Look at that. I can't read at all. I wasn't reading anything. It was just me stammering like an idiot. Let's keep on going. I will right the ship. I am a golden god. I didn't really know how to thread anything else from Almost Famous into this. New York Yankees, 4.3 implied runs at Toronto, 4.3 for them. On the other side, Jordan Montgomery, the southpaw, on the mound here for the Yankees. I feel like I shouldn't ever talk about the Yankees when I'm on a show with you. I feel like I should just leave that up to you. So Jordan Montgomery, go.
I mean, I talked all about the Twins in there. I kept cutting you off and interrupting.
I know, but but that's another team I shouldn't talk about because I'm irrational. I'm generally either very, very Byron Buxton's Jesus or it's our pitching staff is terrible and needs to be dust, but yet they've been good this year. I have no in between.
Here I am loving your pitching staff between Bailey Ober, Joe Ryan, Chris Paddock, like all these guys. I really, I'm into
Chris Archer.
I like that staff. Archer and Sonny Gray are also on that team. But
I know
I like those three young pitchers.
Me too. They've been fun.
Yeah, for sure. Looking at Montgomery, a good major league pitcher, never the best DFS option. Over the course of time, mid-20s strikeout rate is fine. You're getting a serviceable start from him most times out. 18.3% strikeout rate so far this year. Small sample warning on that. It's only 20 innings in 4 starts. 4.23 xFIP, a 2.70 ERA underneath that with a 2.99 xERA. He's pitching like Jordan Montgomery. I think the biggest thing here is that he's going up against a loaded Blue Jays lineup with a ton of righty pop in that homer happy park that they play in Toronto. I just don't love the spot for Montgomery here. He's only 7,500 on FanDuel. He's getting 1% ownership. He's only 8,100 on DK, getting 2.4% ownership. I think on talent alone, you can maybe get away with a few shares of Montgomery here. It's not pretty, but as a tournament play from like the middle of the board with nobody on him, maybe you get away with it. I don't love it. He's sitting at an 8.9% probability of being a top 2 on DK, but only 2.1% ownership. So you're going thin on your probabilities, but that's what we need for tournament plays sometimes. On FanDuel, 5.5% on the single pitcher site might be a little even thinner than I'm willing to go, particularly because I can get like a Chris Paddock with positive leverage over there. So maybe tempered expectations on the FanDuel, say tempered deployment, but I think you can maybe get away with a few shares of them here on the DK slate. It's a dangerous spot. It wouldn't surprise me to see these guys come out, hit 2 or 3 home runs, win this game, 7-4 against my Yankees, or lose this game, 10-9 against my Yankees, preferably. So that's the Montgomery take. No shares.
Yeah, it's a bummer he's a lefty, because anytime that Toronto's going to line up against lefties, they're going to have a lower K rate. You get Alejandro Kirk at the catcher spot, 10.8% strikeout rate compared to Zach Collins' 41.3% K percentage. That is a drastic difference when you're talking about 2-3 at bats. It's basically the difference between at least one free K and one impossible 2K. So letting it be known, that's a tough bummer there. Raimel Tapia, he's been in the lineup a lot more left on left too. He's only at a 15.8% K percentage. Going back to his Colorado days, I mean, we were seeing him higher, back up around 22%, 25%, times like that. But even last year, just a 13.1% K percentage. That was top 5%. He's made some really big strides in plate discipline. I just don't like targeting Toronto with lefties, just because the strikeouts just become harder to come by. Do you see anything with that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that in general. And I think this, just top to bottom, this is a pretty difficult team to strike out against both hands. If we're just looking at the collective strikeout rates against both hands last year, Bo Bichette 19.9, Vladdy 15.8, ridiculous. Lourdes Gurriel 18.9, Alejandro Kirk in the teens, Raimel Tapia, like you said, in the teens. Tapia, hit tool and speed focus kind of a player at the back end of that lineup is suddenly somewhat interesting, turning things over down there. Yeah, pesky is exactly the right word for him. So this team is just good. They're good against both hands. I don't love throwing pitchers against them in general. And like you said, with the ability to cut down the strikeouts with a reasonable expectation of power against the lefty, it's just a dangerous, not pretty kind of a spot for Jordan Montgomery. But again, with less than 3% of the field on him at 8,100, you could get a serviceable SP2 start out of him for an expensive SP2 to pair with somebody else. It's a low end, low probability tournament play, but it's not entirely off the board. So I think the ownership is appropriate there. So you could go there, but it's not ideal.
Welcome to the most uncomfortable part of this show. I think this is going to be a very difficult thing for me to understand what I want to do. It's Ross Stripling against this Yankees lineup, and something's got to give, because Stripling limiting hard contact to a ridiculous extent, 21.7% so far this season, top 3% in baseball, coming off of an outing against the Red Sox, regenerated 7 Ks, found a way to 84 pitches out of the middle of nowhere. He was basically hanging around the low 60s, hadn't really been stretched out, and then 84 pitches out of the middle of nowhere. I don't know if that's going to be the trend, but he's 5,800 on the DraftKings slate. And if that's going to be true, I feel like at his 2.8% ownership he currently has, that he would be a massive part of my lineups if the slate started right now. I love this Yankees team in terms of DFS. I love targeting them for DFS purposes, but I think they're going to also generate popularity on every single short slate like this. Right now, there's positive leverage to getting them, but they're the 3rd most popular team. I have a lot of interest in Ross Stripling. Are you with me? On DK, not FanDuel.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm a little challenged on that one. I think it makes sense for price, right? It makes sense for price. It makes sense for the idea of there being strikeouts in the Yankees lineup. I just don't know that Ross Stripling's the guy who's going to really go out there and find them for me. And I don't know that I believe in the contact metrics all that much. He's been much worse with contact, 10+% barrel rate over the last couple of years, high 30s, low 40s in terms of the hard hit over the last couple of years. So I don't love it. Last time Ross Stripling had an aggressively good strikeout rate was in 2019. I was trying to get to the page that has his strikeout rate as a starter versus as a reliever over time. And it's just,
I mean, here's the thing. While you're pulling that up,
it's about I think the same as a starter and reliever for the course of his career, 22% across.
Okay.
So he's a 20-ish% strikeout rate guy, not an aggressively good strikeout pitcher. For 5,800 and 2.4% ownership, it's kind of like the same thing as I was saying about Montgomery in a dangerous situation going up against a lethal lineup. I think at price and at ownership, it's perfectly fine to roll out there as some tournament plays, get over the field. You can get 5x the field without really damaging your portfolio of lineups if you're playing 150. So I don't have any problem with that. I just don't love it, and I don't really believe that it's going to work out.
Yeah, the Gallo bat, getting that in, obviously he's going to be up against every righty all year long. 42% K percentage so far. That's what he does. He's one of those weird guys who strikes out a ton and walks a ton. Good times. But we're looking at guys in this lineup. I mean, Higashioka has been really, really terrible to start off this season. We'll see if it's him or Jose Trevino. Trevino has not been striking out here. That would be problematic as well. But it's not just that. It's just the opportunity you get. Stanton, Judge, guys who strike out above the 25% clip. Donaldson now is part of that equation too. You get Hicks out of the lineup at around 16.7% K percentage. Maybe you can just find one or two extras, but really it comes down to the price, the ownership, and the opportunity that if the stuff is decent enough, there are some strikeouts to be had. So I don't feel good about it. I love the Yankees bats with positive leverage on the other side, but I think Stripling's a guy that if we're going to be looking at Tyler Wells garnering 11%, give me Ross Stripling at 5,800 at 2.4%.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That direct head-to-head definitely makes sense. I like the strikeout opportunity. Again, a low-end strikeout pitcher, but I like the opportunity for Stripling to potentially find more strikeouts in this lineup. We saw Joey Gallo sat out yesterday he tweaked his groin the other day. So Miguel Andujar got the start yesterday. But then they sent Andujar down with the roster constriction. So I expect Gallo, but we might see like a Tim LaCastro start here or something like that. Jose Trevino versus Higashioka. You're talking about two guys who are very good at framing pitches. Higgy was supposed to be the guy, but he left all of his home runs and all of his hitting in Florida during the spring. So not sure which way that goes. But yeah, LeMahieu, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, Donaldson, Glaber. Sign me up for any combination of those guys in any order that you want against this pitcher. They're all aggressively owned, so you have to play that game of leverage and ownership around the Yankee stacks. Pair them with something a little bit lower owned. Pair them with a low owned pitcher, and you can build with them. It's not a challenge around the popularity. It's very easy to build unique lineups in baseball, so I have no issues with the popularity. 1 through 6 at least, potentially 1 through 7 on this lineup.
Yeah, I'm looking at this lineup. This Yankees lineup is silly. I mean, we just
and for anybody,
a lot of them.
Since this is in Toronto, for anybody wondering, the Yankees are taking the bus across the border, which means no COVID tests, so we don't have to worry about the vaccination status.
Judge is playing.
That's the loophole that everybody's found.
That's what I saw.
Yeah, Judge is going to be in there, et cetera, et cetera. So
crazy.
He said he expects everybody to play.
Oh, what a time to be alive. Aaron Judge. Yeah, he's going to be just fine. He's going to be playing. He's projected in. I was going to say people were worried about that, and now we've figured out what people are going to do with that. Good times. From the Toronto side, lots of guys to consider, specifically Vlad. Bo Bichette, I'm not reading anything. 54.9% hard hit percentage. He going to be just fine. He is fantastic at hitting baseballs hard. 214 batting average so far, 3 homers, 564 OPS. All of those numbers are going to trend up. Just get ready. What sticks out to you from Toronto?
Yeah, I'm happy to go there. I think the middle of the lineup around like a Lourdes Gurriel, Matt Chapman, both well below 10% ownership on the DK slate, in the low single digits on the FanDuel slate. That's a really easy way to get different, and they're both underpriced for their talent. Matt Chapman had a ton of struggles last year in hitting 210, 314, 403, still hit 27 home runs out of 193 ISO, and that's down in the power marks. So I still like Matt Chapman, still barreled the ball 13.7% of the time last year. Plenty to like in combining those guys with the guys that you mentioned. George Springer, certainly off the top of the lineup at 10.2% ownership, major source of home runs, major source of on base and correlated scoring. So put Springer and Bo Bichette and Vladdy together, and then figure out how to pay for it, and then figure out how to build in a couple more guys from this lineup. Nothing not to like about them going up against a lefty here. We talked about the limiting strikeouts. We talked about all their power, their ability to create runs. So really like both sides of the offenses in this one.
Can you look into the camera and very slowly and very sexually say Lourdes Gurriel Jr.?
Lourdes Gurriel Jr.?
Yeah. Oh, with the Tiger. You know what? That's a great time to lead into our sponsor, Prize Picks. Everybody, prizepicks.com. Check them out. It's beautiful stuff over there. Check it out. Download it at the App Store if you prefer such things. But Prize Picks is such a fun site to be checking out every single day, not just for MLB, which we're obviously covering on this show, but NBA, the props have been so soft over there. And they've been trying to give you guys great opportunities. They do these fun things like for esports, they basically put together a ticket and it's a risk-free play that you can put in on that. They give boosts every once in a while where it goes up from the 3x or the 4x payout structure for a 2 or 3 player grouping, and it jumps up to like 5.8% or whatever else it ends up being. They have so many cool promotions going on all the time, but no better promotion than this. Use promo code Awesemo, get $100 first batch deposit bonus plus 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum when you sign up and try out Prize Picks for the first time. They have great MLB offerings. I've been playing a lot of the first inning runs allowed unders. I feel like that's been very profitable. So check out some of that stuff as it goes on. But prizepicks.com, stop guessing, start winning. Join us here at Awesemo through this promotion. Thank you so much to them for their sponsorship of the MLB Strategy Show. All right, my friend, we continue on to the Braves and Mets. Another super low total game, 6.5 implied runs. Welcome to this new age of baseball. Welcome to the new age. Max Fried on the hill. It's another southpaw, having fun today with these lefties, but he's a little bit better, I think, than Jordan Montgomery, don't you?
I do think that Max Fried's better than Jordan Montgomery in general. I mean, they're similar in terms of the numbers, the strikeout rate over time. I don't know what it is. I just believe a little bit more in Fried's talent. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think he's a little bit better. I don't love the matchup for him against the Mets here. Pretty damn good offense that's been kind of humming along so far this season. A lot of guys, both sides of the plate, a lot of right-handed hitters. So a guy like Brendan Nimmo, I don't really worry about off the top lefty. So there's going to be challenged here. I don't know that he's in the best spot in terms of racking up a ton of strikeouts against this team. Taking a look at the Mets so far this season, 22.8% strikeout rate against lefties, sits 16th in baseball, 5% better than average, creating runs. The power's been out against lefties, though. Only a 103 ISO ranks 23rd, and a 1.34% home run rate ranks 24th so far. So maybe he gets through clean, finds a few strikeouts here. But yeah, I do like Max Fried. 9,300, you're paying a fair price, and he's owned 23%. 9,600 on FanDuel at around 13% ownership. I think that's fair in terms of the price. I wish the ownership was a little bit lower at 9,600 though. If he was below 10%, he'd be a little bit more interesting. I'll have some, but I'll probably be around the field. I'm not going to look to get too aggressive against what I do think is a good Mets lineup here.
I'm with you. Again, we're low totals for a reason. And I like the Mets lineup, but Max Fried, it's just going to be, it's just kind of unappealing for me at 9,300. When he's already going to be this popular, probably going to be finding other paths. And one of those paths might be on the other side of this game here. Looking at Chris Bassitt, oh boy, there's a lot of ownership coming in on him here. But for this slate specifically, 28% K percentage, there's a lot of good pitchers, but he's got the highest good Lord, 28% strikeout rate. That's the highest on this slate. How do you feel about him being the most popular pitcher on this slate?
That was tough to get through. Would you rather just talk about how Byron Buxton and John Morant?
No, there's a huge, massive plane going over top. I've had construction out here. There's like there's a war in LA apparently or something. We just had choppers and usually it's them. Somebody's on the 134 being a dum-dum. And so they're probably chasing him.
Guys are parachuting down onto your front lawn right now outside.
Just madness.
I've heard you talk about the drilling that's been bothering Duke on a bunch of different shows. Yeah. In my head, for some reason, since it's California, I was picturing like big oil derricks kind of a drilling, not like construction drilling. I don't know why that was.
Yeah. Well, why do I keep spacing on this movie every time? I keep wanting to say No Country for Old Men, but that is incorrect. It's the
also a fantastic movie. You're
Paul Thomas Anderson one. What's the one with the oil drilling?
Oh, There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood. I keep wanting to say that.
Movies of the 2000s.
It's incredible. The ending of that is just an oil man. Drink your milkshake. That's all I go back to. Talk to me about Chris Bassitt. The people need to know.
I think Chris Bassitt might drink the Braves milkshake here tonight. 24.4% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching for the Braves so far this season. They're phenomenal for power. 195 ISO is second best in baseball, 15% better than an average, creating runs. 3.94% home run rate is second best in baseball against right-handed pitching so far this year. So he will be challenged. Mr. Acuna is going to be back up top of that lineup again. He's got a monster projection. He's one of the best hitters in all of baseball by far. But I do like Chris Bassitt. I think he's proven a lot over the last couple seasons. seasons. He pitches deep into games pretty reliably. 25% strikeout rate over the course of 170 and 157 and a third last season. So far this year, Bassett's out to a 28% strikeout rate start, pitching to a 3.30 xFIP, 2.25 ERA. Nothing not to like about Bassett, except that he's fairly priced at a big number, and he's drawing a ton of attention. 40+% ownership on DK, 30% ownership on FanDuel for expensive prices, but he's the top of our board on both sites in terms of probability of success. Even with the negative leverage, I think you can get there. Maybe if you're rostering him on DK, maybe you undercut the 42% and you go like 35%, something like that, spread it out a little bit. Maybe on FanDuel 30%, you go 25% and go throw a few more shares at a Chris Paddock or somebody like that. But overall, I want to be in the Chris Bassett business, even with a very difficult matchup.
He's just very, very good at pitching baseballs. Yep. And Atlanta, there's going to be strikeouts. It's a potent lineup, though. I mean, anytime you're going to be getting positive leverage on Atlanta, you got to talk about them. And boy, are we getting positive leverage. Second most positively leveraged team on this slate. Only 4.3%, well, 1.8% ownership share, but a 6.1% top stack percentage. Again, that's not nothing. That's middle of the board on this slate. So it might be a team I get to above expectation, even against an incredible pitcher like Chris Bassett. Whenever it's the most popular pitcher on a slate, you always have some viability going there. Do I think it works out a majority of the time? No, I do not. But how appealing is Atlanta to you on this slate?
I just mentioned all their incredible power marks against right-handed pitching, right? So there's a very good reason to go to a lot of these bats. It's a firm both sides are for me. And if I'm picking a spot where I'm going to be ahead of the field, it would probably be on the Braves bats. First off, that's fairly easy to accomplish based on where we've got them projected in terms of ownership. Matt Olson, 4% owned, one of the best lefty power hitters in the game going up against a righty. Yes, please. I mentioned Ronald Acuna Jr. Would you rather pay $6,100 for Ronald Acuna as a one-off on the DK slate, or would you rather pay $6,000 for Ty France as a one-off on the DK slate? I'll wait.
Oh boy.
Come on.
Wow. I didn't see the Ty France tag, and now my mind doesn't know what to think of what is the world?
That's just bonkers. Completely broken pricing. Totally ludicrous. I know he's out to a good start, but Ty France is not Ronald Acuna Jr. So for me, that is a firm Ronald Acuna Jr. all the way. Marcelo Ozuna, not a great person, very good hitter. Ozzie Albies in the middle of that lineup.
Not a good person. It's so true.
I think that one's inarguable. Even Travis Demeritte hiding down the bottom of this lineup. If he's in the lineup today, 2,000 dead minimum on DK, 2,500 on FanDuel, second base on FanDuel, outfield on DK. He is an outfielder, so that's interesting. And he is a multi-position guy. I shouldn't mock FanDuel that way, but just the way that they've got it set up differently is interesting. But Demeritte is a former first-round pick, I think 4 seasons in the minor leagues of 20 or more home runs, and getting an opportunity here in this lineup. So I think he's kind of sneaky interesting down toward the bottom of this lineup. Not that you need to offset ownership, but if I'm building out 30 Brave stacks or something like that, he'd probably be in a few of them. Dansby Swanson, everybody knows, is a bat that I love at 3,100, bottom of this lineup. Use him at shortstop if you need him.
Anything else from this game?
Mets bats are also similarly low owned going up against Max Fried here. So you can definitely, flip everything that I just said about the Braves with a little bit of tempered enthusiasm for the Mets side of it, but everybody's super low owned. They're less expensive than the Braves. Pete Alonso going up against a lefty at 4,800 and under 2% ownership on DK, 3,700 under 2% ownership on FanDuel. As a one-off in the middle of stacks, I'm happy to get to that pretty much any day. Pete Alonso's a fantastic hitter, so he's too low owned. He's too cheap there. Stacks for the Mets with tempered expectations, a Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso, Escobar kind of a stack is fine. If you wanted to work Mark Canha in or JD Davis, that's fine too. Did you see that Francisco Lindor came out in the paper and said, I'm going to be really pissed if we cut Robinson Cano, who is totally worthless and cost the team both a roster spot and like $28 million.
I mean, this is like the DeAndre Jordan thing where
exactly.
He must be everybody's best friend because he hasn't had anything for a while.
No, well, except for PED suspensions. That's all he's had the last couple of years. Yeah, Robbie Cano, not a good baseball player anymore.
Not good at this point. Well, let's talk about another not good baseball player. However, I do want to say I'm happy that he didn't end up breaking his wrist on that fly ball that liner that he took to his wrist the other day. That is Marco Gonzalez going up against Houston here in this spot. And I'm pretty sure that if Marco Gonzalez is going to garner any attention whatsoever, That is silly to me because Houston should be the most popular team on this slate. They're going to be the most popular team on this slate. I don't really want to roster a Marco Gonzalez who just got hit with a liner at 8,600 here. I don't really know what else to say. Is there any Marco Gonzalez interest for you?
No, I don't know how bad a pitching slate would have to get for me to want to roster either one of these starters in this spot against these teams, but it would have to be a hell of a lot worse than the options we've got today. I don't need either of these guys.
Yeah, I think Odorizzi, but would be okay. I mean, extreme fly ball pitcher. Minnesota, great Jake Odorizzi. What a weird thing to say. That's a sarcastic comment, by the way. But Jake Odorizzi, I'm pretty sure I don't really find a need to get there other than there's only 12 pitchers. If other guys fail, maybe he has 5 innings, 3 strikeouts, gets through
it. Yeah,
even that is like pushing it. We're pushing it.
I mentioned that placeholder I built today with Paddock. I built it last night, and the Mariners were my second stack. As soon as I saw Jake Odorizzi in there, I said, "Oh, let me grab some of these Mariners. I think they're going to be low owned, which they're not necessarily."
They are. Yeah. Oh, well, gigantically low owned on DK.
On DK, they are. The DK they're very nicely low owned because you have a $6,000 Ty France in there, $5,200 Jesse Winker, $5,400 Eugenio Suarez, and $5,600 JP Crawford. On FanDuel, Ty France is $3,900. He's aggressively priced, but Jesse Winker's $2,600, owned 30% of the time. That's a little disappointing. Eugenio Suarez and JP Crawford at 35. Eugenio's pulling 20%. Crawford's interesting though, drops down to 5.6% before you get to Abraham Toro, who pops back up into 13% range for 2,500. So there are ways to build this lineup in with low-owned guys on both sites. You can get to a Julio Rodriguez, a Jared Kelenic at the end of the lineup, both under 10%, both fairly cheap. So I do still like the spot for the Mariners here. I'd be more inclined to go toward that side of this equation. Odorizzi so far this year, striking out 13% of opposing hitters, walking 11.6%. He's been a 20, and I mean exactly 20% strikeout rate guy the last couple of seasons. He popped to 27.1% in 2019 somehow, but before that he was 21 down the line. I don't expect a lot from Odorizzi here. So yeah, if you wanted to do it at 6,200 on SP as an SP2 and you're avoiding some of those other shares that we've talked about on DK, it's perfectly fine. There's no reason not to do it in tournaments here and there, but it's not a spot that I'm expecting to succeed, not a spot I'd be excited about.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about the Houston Astros, but so is everybody else here on the other side of this. Also, I'm asleep at the wheel. 59 likes. That is not nearly enough for my guy Terry. Took down the FanDuel squeeze on Friday, 30K. You have 30,000 reasons to hit that like button right now is the way I look at it. So please do that. Smash that like button for us. Over 200 people hanging out, talking 6-game MLB slate. We would very much appreciate that. But back to the Astros. Smash in terms of what you're looking at for Yordan Alvarez. Smash in terms of what you're looking at with Kyle Tucker. 683 expected slugging, 671 expected slugging. I mean, they're just two of the best hitters in baseball. I absolutely love them from the left side. Who else sticks out to you in this spot against Marco Gonzalez? But yes, though I'm specifically shouting out the lefties because it doesn't matter. Gonzalez, he doesn't hate either side. He gives it up to everybody.
Yeah, and neither of those lefties really struggle against lefty pitching either, which is also something to call out. Alvarez, from time to time, the team sits him against a lefty just for the hell of it while leaving Michael Brantley, who does struggle against left-handed pitching for the course of his career, in the lineup. I don't expect that's the case. The last few times against the Southpaw, Yordan Alvarez was in the lineup, so I expect him. Top to bottom, this team's owned in like the 20% range on DK, mid-teens to 20% on FanDuel. So they're going to be a challenge in terms of the rostership, in terms of the popularity. That said, I really like the way they've got these guys priced today. Only Alex Bregman and Yordan Alvarez aggressively high priced on either site. So you can string these Astros together pretty inexpensively and then just focus on getting different with which pitcher or pitchers you're using. Focus on getting different with which stacks you're using. Don't just put them together with the most obvious, really highly owned value play on the other side. Get different with that and you're perfectly fine in terms of rostering these guys. This lineup plays from 1 through 8 and it also has Martin Maldonado in it as a catcher. Everybody in the lineup from the top 8 is spectacular at hitting, especially against left-handed pitching. There's nothing not to like about Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Yordan Alvarez, Yuli Gurriel, Kyle Tucker, Chas McCormick, who hits everything hard, Jeremy Pena, the rookie. Top to bottom, you got to love this Astros team in this spot. Just figure out how to do it where you're not duping everybody else's lineups.
Play all the dudes, right? Play all the bats. It's like a cave, just bats everywhere.
I like it.
Tampa Bay Rays, final game here. Of course, you and I would find a way to easily fill up an hour talking baseball, talking movies. Always a good time here on a Monday morning. Once again, smash the like button for my guy Terry over there. Tampa Bay Rays 3.9 implied run total going up against the A's at home. 3.1 for these young guys because their offense isn't that good. Drew Rasmussen on the bump, 24.3% K percentage so far this season. I mean, pretty much anybody vaults into play against an Oakland A's athletic in that ballpark. This guy coming off of a massive upside game, 9 strikeouts against Seattle, 84 pitches. That gives me more hope for him at 8,300. How does he stand? How does he sit on your board today?
Yeah, I like that spot. He projects out pretty well for me in terms of my personal projections. He's 4th on my FanDuel board. So I do like the spot for Rasmussen. Don't think very much of this Oakland lineup whatsoever. Taking a look at this year's stats for Oakland against right-handed pitching, they're sitting at a 121 ISO, 22nd in baseball, 24.1% strikeout rate as a group. That's 24th in baseball, creating runs 10% worse than average. Nothing to speak of in terms of the home run rate here. So I think Rasmussen could come out, have a very nice game. He's a mid-20s strikeout guy over the course of time. That's about where he is so far this season. So definitely a nice spot. No real threats. I mean, you're talking about a lineup where is Sheldon Noose maybe the best hitter in this lineup? Certainly is so far this year. Seth Brown, Sean Murphy have some power, but there's nobody to worry about in this Athletics lineup. I think they've actually overperformed so far this season, and I think they're going to backslide a little bit and get worse. So I like the spot for Rasmussen. 8,200, under 10% ownership on FanDuel. I can absolutely go there. 8,300, 20% ownership on DK. Puts him in that, Chris Paddock kind of a range in terms of the popularity, a little bit more expensive, but you can juggle those two guys into different lineup spots and be perfectly fine with some of the cheap hitting prices. So I like Rasmussen on both sides. I think it's a good opportunity for him, and not sure I would really tangle with many Dalton Jeffrey shares on the other side of it.
87 WRC plus against righties this season, 122 ISO. And yet I think we both expect even more regression coming for them. That puts them at 19th in terms of ISO. And that just is too much. When you have Boston, Padres, Cubs, White Sox, all these teams behind them, they're going to pass them. That is just my guess. It's actually not a guess. It's actually a fact. Let's talk Dalton Jeffries here on the other side. This is a phenomenal ballpark. He's not a phenomenal pitcher. There's only 6 games, and if there were more, I doubt that I would get to any shares of this guy. But as it stands right now, there's positive leverage to be had. Any reason to try to fire shares of him? I'm assuming on FanDuel, no interest.
Yeah, I wouldn't go near him on the FanDuel slate. I don't think there's any reason. We've got him bottom of the board on FanDuel, 5% probability of being the top pitcher. Sometimes we're dabbling with those 5%ers on, larger slates where there's positive leverage. I just think too much of this Tampa lineup, and I don't think enough of him. So even if he's a discounted price, I just don't need it. On the DK slate, he jumps up 3 spots. He's 3rd from the bottom with an 8.6 probability of being a top 2, owned 5% of the time. He's one of the stronger value marks on the board, but I just don't see it. We're talking about a mid-teen strikeout rate pitcher over time. For the course of his career, a 14% strikeout rate. It's only in 36 1/3 innings, but if you look back at his minor league numbers, not really anything overly impressive in any of the extended samples. So I just don't expect very much from Dalton Jeffries in this spot. Out to a 4.43 xFIP, a 4.11 xERA so far this season. Just not a lot there going up against what I do think is a very good Tampa lineup. Brandon Lau, Wander Franco, Randy Arozarena, Manny Margot is a decent hitter. Mike Zunino can go deep on anybody at any time. So I'm not sure how much raise stacks I'm really getting to here, but I don't want to really get into Dalton Jeffrey shares.
Yeah, no G-Man Choi, maybe a little bit of a downgrade slightly, but the Yandy Man can.
Yabs. Nice.
No, that was the Yandy Man joke.
The Yandy Man, yeah, projected to hit 3rd, 2,700. Yeah, I can get into some shares of the Yandy Man here.
Maybe, I don't know. Zunino, he's just off to an abysmal start, but has crazy power. Eventually, he's going to hit the baseball. He's going to make contact with baseballs, right?
Yes, and that's the only thing that Mike Zunino ever needs to do to hit home runs is just put bat on ball. 24.3% barrel rate last season was 2 percentage points higher than Shohei Ohtani, if I'm remembering correctly. He just didn't qualify based on number of plate appearances, but he would have led baseball with barrel rate last year.
It's just insanity. There was one period of time I think he had more home runs than singles, and that was a great time.
Doesn't surprise
that
me
was
at all.
Really fun. I enjoyed that very much. Let's round this one out here with the Oakland A's bats here on the other side. I really have nothing. You could always play a Sean Murphy at catcher, but he's 4,300. That's an overpay. Seth Brown probably would be the guy I'd maybe play with the first base outfield utility. I don't really know how I get to much of them. Is there anything that sticks out for you?
They have multi-position eligibility at a lot of spots, and they're super cheap. If you wanted a completely off the board, totally wildly unlikely to succeed stack, maybe this is where you can differentiate your lineups. It is not for me by any means, though. Everybody priced under $3,000 on FanDuel. Everybody very cheap on DK, totally low owned. But to put it in perspective in terms of this team, Drew Rasmussen, a good pitcher. We just talked about him, but not somebody who's absolutely lights out, absolutely handicaps power by any means based on his career history. Everybody on the Athletics is below a 5 in my home run model. 10 is the magic number for you've got a good chance to hit home run. I just don't see very much here for these guys. So for me, it's a no. I don't even, despite the flexibility and the interesting way you can put this lineup together in a lot of ways, I just don't need them. I don't think there's much here.
All right. Well, my goodness, we still went over an hour. Look at us. I mean, it was baseball. Mike hanging out with us here on a Monday morning once again. Can't appreciate you guys hanging out more. We flew. That was the fastest hour I've personally ever been a part of when it comes to baseball.
On by. Yeah, I could sit here and do another hour. What do you got to do? I have to record a couple VODs for tournament strategy for this, and then write an article. But I could go another hour. You want to go around again? Let's just start back at the top.
Let's do that for a 14 gamer where we can go deep diving into why Byron Buxton is a golden god, and we can continue on from there. But this was a blast. Don't forget to check out, we have a mock draft Monday show, best ball season. Hello, Savoca and Lepre are going to be doing that at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's when everything will pick back up here at the Awesemo YouTube channel. You have an MLB Live Before Lock at that exact same time. That'll be over here on this channel. So yeah, that's on the best ball channel for the mock draft one. MLB Live Before Lock, that'll be 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Aton and Neil taking you guys up to lock on that one. Well, actually, it'll be way before lock, but still, you know what I meant. NBA Deeper Dive, Lofty and Josh. Then I will be on NBA Live Before Lock with my buddy Greg, covering everything we have on this 2-gamer. But my friend, Terry McBride, congratulations. Any final words for the people?
Good luck tonight. Somebody go out there and knock down this tournament. 25K on FanDuel and whatever 50K on DK. I want to see winners on both sides tonight.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. Smash the like button for our guy Mike over there. Awesome, Smash it for my guy Terry McBride. I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck. Just stack the Yankees. We'll see you guys later.